What do you do if you get in a car accident? Hi, my name is Shanik, and I'm a lawyer, and this is Everyday Law, where I give you a lawyer's perspective into everyday situations you might run into. Right after you get into a car collision, your adrenaline is super high, and you are amped up. The first thing you need to do is make sure that you are safe, your passengers are safe, everyone around you is safe, and then if your car still works, pull it over to the side, especially if you're on a freeway. Get out of the way. Turn on your hazards. If you've got some of those triangles, put them out. If it's dark and you've got flares, put those out, and don't leave the scene. In some jurisdictions, it can actually be a crime to leave the scene after a collision. When you talk to people at the scene, stay factual. Say less. When you're full of adrenaline and you're nervous and something like that has happened to you, you will talk and talk and talk. But careless words, especially ones that may not be true, you're just saying them because you're so anxious, can cost you. It isn't always the case that an apology is going to be construed as fault, but in some jurisdictions, even if you say, "I'm so sorry," that could later be construed as admitting fault, even if it wasn't your fault. So stick to the facts, names, locations, observable things that happened. Next, document everything. Take your phone out, take pictures of all the documents you're exchanging, license plates, VIN numbers if you can get to them, any damage to the car, any people who have injuries, the location. You can never have too many photographs. There may be witnesses around who saw it happen, who have stopped to help out. You want to get those people's information. You want to get their names, their contact information, and if they're willing, you could even ask them if they'd be willing to record a statement at the scene about what they saw. This kind of contemporaneous observation could be really helpful later when you're trying to prove that it wasn't your fault. If your car has a dash cam, make sure you go into the settings and save the video. Sometimes these dash cam videos automatically delete after a certain period of time, and you have to do something to save the video that it's taken. By the way, you should know that cars nowadays are basically rolling data centers. They have a black box that records everything. It records speed, acceleration, right before and during the collision. There's all kinds of videos that cars have nowadays, and sensors and LiDARs that also record. All of these can be used later on to reconstruct an incident. Now, when you get home, you're still going to be coming down from that adrenaline rush, and adrenaline hides injuries. So see a doctor within 72 hours just to make sure everything's okay. Things like whiplash, concussions, even internal injuries can show up later. So it's really important to get yourself checked out. Even if all you're feeling is a little twinge or soreness, these things can get a lot bigger down the road. So it's really important that you get it checked out immediately. And the other thing you can do when you get home is write everything down. You can start a collision journal. Write down everything you remember about what happened. Write down how you're feeling, and then keep tracking that day after day if anything changes. Then you've got to call your insurance company. Now remember, they're there to help you, but they're also there to make sure you don't get more money than they think that you should get. So when you're talking to your adjuster, stick to what you know. Don't say things if you don't even know that they're true. If you don't think that you're totally fine, if you haven't gotten a medical opinion, don't say that you're fine. Say you're still assessing your medical treatment and it's ongoing. If you don't know exactly what the scope of the damage is to your vehicle, tell them what happened, tell them what you see, and then tell them you still need to get a second opinion or a first opinion from a mechanic. Don't lock yourself into something that can be later used to limit your recovery if you have medical damages or property damages that far exceed what you initially anticipated. When you talk to them, you're probably going to have to give them a recorded statement. So if you've kept contemporaneous notes, if you've written down in your accident journal, well, then it's going to be a lot simpler. You don't have to rely on memories that may fade. You can just rely on what you've written down, and you can tell them, I wrote this down when it happened or an hour after it happened, and I'm going to read from that, and it's what I remember. At some point, you may get a document from them, you may get a document from the other driver's insurance company, and it'll ask you to sign to get some money, hopefully. Make sure that before you sign anything, you talk to a lawyer. Because what could happen is you might end up waiving your rights, releasing all of your claims, known or unknown, in exchange for some money. Now, what happens if 3 months from now you realize that your injuries were a lot more severe? Well, then you're locked in. You have already released your claims. You cannot pursue legal action against that other driver or the other policy, and you just won't have a viable path to recovery. It's especially important to talk to a lawyer if you have significant injuries. If you realize that your injuries are keeping you from going to work, that they are so severe they're going to require surgery, if they are just affecting your life, talk to a lawyer early, because a lawyer is going to help figure out a couple of things. Is there enough money in the policies to cover your medical bills? What if the other driver is uninsured? What if there was a commercial policy involved? What if there was a dangerous condition of public property and a public entity like a city or a county that maintains the roads is potentially responsible? A lawyer will be able to help you figure that out and help you figure out how to hold various parties accountable and get you a viable path to recovery for your injuries. And if you're worried about spending money to hire a lawyer, you should know that most lawyers who do this kind of law are contingency lawyers. That means you don't pay them anything up front, you pay them at the end as a percentage of whatever you recover in a settlement or at trial. So here's a quick recap. Don't leave the scene. Do exchange information. Do stick to the facts. Don't say things that aren't true or that you don't know are true. Keep contemporaneous notes, either at the time or after the incident, and track what is happening with your injuries. Don't sign anything without talking to a lawyer, and if you've got significant injuries, don't rush to settle before you know what the extent of those injuries are. And lastly, remember the law varies by jurisdiction, so this is not legal advice, it's just informational. If this happens to you, talk to a lawyer in your area. They will be able to assess your situation in the context of the local laws and give you real legal advice about what you should do in your particular set of circumstances. I hope this was educational, and I'll see you next time.